Hi Don, how
Hello.
you doing?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, good, good. So I love this room. Very nice and tight, really excited to be here. So everyone is talking about generative AI. It's a mega trend. We've all been talking about it today. We've all been talking about it for the last year. So we want to focus on the enterprise aspect of it, so rather than the consumer level. And our aim for this interview is to provide an overview of how businesses can effectively scale and leverage AI's potential. But we want to address some important considerations such as data privacy and innovation, really. So let's start simple. Why is everyone so excited about AI?
Well, I think from a business context perspective, beyond the 100 million plus downloads of ChatGPT by, college students trying to write their papers using it, is how it can increase both creativity in the creative process or enhance it, as well as productivity and efficiency within an enterprise, and how it's going to change operating models and probably business models as well. So I think that's the unknown, but the excitement and the opportunity that people are most kind of chatting about right now with regards to the application of not just generative AI, but AI in general across any enterprise.
And then on the flip side, the risks. So security and data privacy are obviously critical when you're implementing these technologies. So how can businesses harness generative AI to increase productivity and create new experiences whilst effectively safeguarding that data? So what strategies would you give for this dual challenge of innovation and privacy?
Well, I mean, first you have to start with the realization that AI is not just going to be in the cloud, in the public cloud. Right? I mean, it's not a scalable model. It's not a scalable business model or economic model. One of the previous guests talked about the cost of a query being 7 to 10 times more than a Google search. But by the way, the power on the grid, if everything had to go to the big hyperscalers data centers for every query, and the amount of water it would take to cool those data centers, it's just not an ESG friendly model. So AI in general is going to be hybrid.
Yeah.
And it's going to happen on device, whatever that device might be. It might be a smartphone, it might be a PC, it might be a tablet, it might be something else, a robot. And it's going to happen on-prem, meaning it's going to happen at the enterprise level on campuses, in your home. And then there are things that are going to go to the public cloud. But the technology itself can enable large language models to run 100% on a smartphone at over 13 billion parameters, which means that you can take the entirety of the Alexa large language model that Amazon uses, and you can actually run it native on device without ever touching the cloud or having one bit of connectivity. So this hybrid approach to AI is going to enable a couple things for enterprises to think about when it comes to privacy and security. First of all, you can actually have your own large language model. You can have your own data set that is just made up of your data. And if you have a private cloud, or if you have a 5G private network on your campus, plus you have devices roaming around that your employees are using, all that data can be self-contained and private, and it doesn't have to go to a Azure data center or an AWS data center, right? It can stay private on-prem, and you're only using your data set. So it's only being trained on your internal data. So whether you're recreating presentations and you're pulling data from previous presentation sets, or you're using data from labs, lab experiments that you've done, or different types of simulations that you've run as a business, all that data can be self-contained. So when it comes to privacy and security, if you look at the AI spectrum, and on this side is on device, and on this side is public cloud, for an enterprise, the privacy and security safety sort of side, it's going to be over here.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to be that on-device, on-prem, generative AI uses and use cases and models and enablement. It's not going to be on this side, where someone's just going on their phone, querying ChatGPT to give you some sort of answer to a random question. And so I think that's where privacy and security will be best architected. But it's going to take knowledge. It's going to take a lot of thinking, a lot of questions to be asked, but the technology is there. And there are lots of technology providers. I mean, we're just one of them that has already enabled this scenario or this architecture to happen. So it's there for the enterprise to take advantage of and to go into this era of generative AI in a very thoughtful and a very comprehensive and safe way. So, you know, I think that there's nothing to be afraid of.
Yeah, so
I guess I would say.
Safety in that innovation and creating that hybrid model, you say, is the key to scaling for enterprise.
Absolutely, and I think whether you're talking to Sam Altman or Satya Nadella or anybody in the space, they've already publicly admitted AI is going to be hybrid, right? It's not all going to run in the public cloud. NVIDIA's not going to just keep selling data cards to hyperscalers. The reality is that for this to scale, it's going to have these points of presence that then kind of balances the workloads and also balances the economic and business models and the environmental models. But that actually brings advantages to the enterprise.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we look at Qualcomm enabling that ecosystem, so you touched on the fact that Qualcomm is one of many providers.
Sure.
But Qualcomm is known for its contributions to mobile and wireless technology. We've talked about 5G before. So how is Qualcomm enabling businesses to scale AI in the context of mobile devices, and what role does 5G play in that evolution?
Well, where our sweet spot is when it comes to AI is really AI at the edge, right? So it's our capabilities to deliver on-device AI through our platforms, our Snapdragon platforms, whether it's on a smartphone, a PC, a pair of XR goggles, whatever that might be, in vehicles, whether it's transportation vehicles or company cars, whatever it might be. And then it's our connectivity prowess and background in all the generations of wireless technology in building private networks, all right? In concert with our whole ecosystem of partners. Like, nobody does this on their own. We're sort of this ecosystem enabler, right? So I think between those two things, that is a really nice combination to enable enterprise, right, through on-prem types of protection as well as on-device types of models and use cases to be able to build out a generative AI kind of architecture and strategy, for their enterprise or for their business.
And there's a few sorts of partnerships that you're working on at the moment. So can you provide some insights onto how different sectors are kind of adapting and adopting these new and benefiting from these scaled AI solutions, and also how these applications are transforming their respective industries?
Yeah, gosh, there's so many use cases when it comes to business for both AI in general and generative AI, from supply chain to customer service to sales to marketing.
Yeah.
There's just lots of different things. And again, if it's enhancing the creative process as a CMO, that's something that's important to me. But it's also about making things more productive. I think that the use cases are sort of just too many to name. But beyond being the technology company that's creating, inventing, and commercializing some of this stuff, we're also an enterprise.
Yeah.
So we're grappling with how to deploy generative AI in our own business. We have an AI think tank and an AI steering committee, so to speak. A lot of lawyers are on that committee, as you can imagine. But we are looking at stepping into utilizing these tools in a very thoughtful way. One of the first questions that our steering committee asks is, how is this model trained? And is this model being trained in a very secure, safe, and IP-friendly way? Meaning it's not using IP that it's not allowed to use in order to train itself. One of the big premises around the actors strike, right, has been protection of IP.
Of course.
And so, Sarah Silverman saying, hey, this model was trained on my stuff, right? And so how is the model trained is a really important question. But as a CMO, I've already deployed Firefly, so I'm a beta customer of Firefly with Adobe. What Firefly is going to enable for that enhancement of the creative process is just nothing short of amazing and mind-blowing. I was at Adobe Max a couple weeks ago, and just watching those creators on stage utilizing these tools across the Adobe suite was just pow. So I'm super, super happy about what Adobe Firefly is going to do for my creative teams. We're also experimenting with Writer. Writer is a really great LLM for copy development, for naming, product naming. Oh my gosh, product naming is a pain in the butt. Is the name available? Is it trademarkable across 17,000 different countries, right? Is it translatable, right? All that kind of stuff. So we're utilizing these tools today to help, again, enhance the creative process and then become more efficient in some of the things that we're responsible for, and I'm responsible for as the CMO. But our legal department, ironically, is also using Gen AI for contracts. And so from templatizing to bringing in standard language that we usually use across contracts to accelerate the contracts process. So there's all these different use cases and tools that can be deployed, but it has to be done thoughtfully, and you have to kind of understand how the model is trained. Did the company providing this tool, protect that training algorithm and do it in a way that's IP friendly and protected and legal, I guess I would say. And that's something that our steering committee looks at every day when everybody raises their hand saying, I want to bring this tool, or our engineers just start going to ChatGPT to try to, and then all of a sudden our IP is being poured into this big public LLM, and so we had to shut that down pretty fast because democratization is great, but democratization without guidance and guardrails is chaos, right? So we need this balance of democratizing and being excited about these tools on the one hand, and on the other hand, making sure that they're safe and there's logic around them.
You spoke about your steering committee there. I'm curious about how that came together, when, and the evolution.
Our general counsel basically shut any sort of generative AI usage down from like a week into ChatGPT launching, and forced the executive team to take a step back. And it was more of a message being sent to the rest of the organization saying, we have to take a pause here before we go any further with generative AI. Let's take a pause. We're going to do a zero tolerance shutdown, and then we're going to now step into this through a steering committee of thoughtful people that can analyze these models, that can not only explore use case, but also explore safety, security, privacy, all those types of things, and then figure out, is this something we can move forward with? All of my tools have gone through this steering committee process, so firsthand, it seems a little scary, and I'm one of those, I'm not a big bureaucracy person, so I'm like, oh my God, this is gonna take forever, and we're never gonna be able to use Firefly. But actually it didn't, and we were able to, I think our contract negotiations with Adobe on Firefly took longer than actually the legal approval to use it, for my team. So the steering committee has been super helpful in unlocking the gates of generative AI for the business. Because again, just letting it go wild and run rampant, there's so much risk. Yeah. And that's our legal department's job is, right? Assess risk, prevent risk. And so that's one thing that we've done. And on top of that, one of the things that our steering committee has been very thoughtful about education within the teams that want to use these tools is, remember that these tools are great to help accelerate, enhance, kickstart, so to speak. But you still have to add that editorialization, that ownership level of whatever you're developing in order for us to own it. So as a CMO, if I want to own the content I'm developing, it can't just be whatever writer came up with and I go publish that, right? It can't be that. My team, we have to look at whatever writer came up with as a starter, and then we have to add our own voice. We have to add our own uniqueness to that output in order for us to then publish it publicly and have it be ownable to us. And that was one of the I don't want to say sort of speeches, but that was one of the pieces of the puzzle in us being able to roll some of these tools out. Is just you have to add that ownability layer on top of whatever you're using these tools to help you develop. If you don't, you risk that you can't own it, and then that gets into all sorts of other problems that I think people are worried about as well.
Yeah, huge risk, but again, huge opportunities as well. When you're working with your clients, how are you advising on are your clients using this similar sort of steering committee, or how are you advising them on the risks?
Yeah, I think our model is I don't know if we just have a unique insight because we're a duality, so to speak. Like I think we've enabled 2.5 billion devices on planet Earth already have AI on them. And are already utilizing AI for the last 10 years, and it's been running in the background. You really haven't noticed it. It was really the advent of LLMs and Gen AI, where it started to become a prompting sort of exercise, and the interaction changed with AI. But AI's been working on your smartphone for about 10 years. It's been making your pictures better. It's making your audio sound clearer, right? It's going to be enhancing your experiences for about 10 years. You may not have realized it, but it's going on. And so the Gen AI kind of evolution of that, where it became more interactive to the individual, has sort of brought it into the spotlight, right? But so what we've been telling our customers and clients and partners and the ecosystem is just that there's a right way, right, and a I don't want to say a wrong way, but a immature way of approaching this.
Yeah.
And so please take this way, right? Not this way, because you're gonna bite yourself.
Yeah, help us help you.
You know where. So any advice or any examples that we can provide from our own use case, from our own sort of experiences, we obviously offer that on to our ecosystem of partners and our customers. And then we're also advising our device partners, like our PC partners, whether it's Microsoft or Lenovo or Dell or Samsung, our smartphone partners, because they're really excited about this, right? Copilot is going to be that Gen AI productivity tool that reinvents the PC. Firefly is going to be that creative tool that reinvents the creative process. And then you have all these others, right? And so we're working really closely with our device ecosystem partners on how it's deployed, on how much the technology can handle, so that the experience isn't slow or inaccurate, or you've queried, you've used Copilot for 5 minutes and your battery's dead on your PC. So those are some of the conversations we're entering into with our partners about. It's all about enabling it so that it works for everybody. Right? It's not just, hey, I just did this amazing thing on Lightroom on my phone. Oh, my battery's down to 5%. What happened? Right? So those are the types of conversations that we're having.
For people who are considering working with Qualcomm or a partner like Qualcomm, what should they be concerned and excited about? What should they be thinking about when working with you?
I just think that whether it's us or anybody else, just understanding how the technology is built and what the limitations or the opportunities with the technology actually is, and don't create the opportunity for a mismatch. So as you're building the application layer, which for Gen AI I believe is just a Trojan horse to disintermediating the OS, and I really believe that's what OpenAI's agenda is. But no offense, but brilliant actually. So, as you're looking at how this is kind of rolling through and how it's evolving, to just make sure that you understand that you don't mismatch something that you would like to do, or a tool that you'd like to use, or an outcome you'd like to create because of that tool, with the capabilities of the technology that you're using to create that output, right? Because if you have a mismatch, then it's just going to blow up, right? And you're either going to have an unsatisfied user base. People are going to be like, this doesn't work, right? Or you're going to have IP leakage, don't want that, or some other kind of more catastrophic sort of thing's going to happen to you. So understanding the technology and how it's built, and then how it's being implemented across, from device right to on-prem to public cloud, what the capabilities are, and then what the models are that are shooting across. Because right now, all the LLM, folks are just talking about more parameters, trillions of parameters, and my gosh, yes, for supercomputers and NASA and things like that, amazing, trillions of parameters, really good, solving really big problems. But you don't need that for like 99% of what you want Gen AI to do. So there's this more is better, bigger is better. It's like the megapixel war with cameras, right? At some point, there's diminishing returns, right? You don't need 4,000 megapixels in your camera. So I think paying attention to that and cutting through the hype, and then getting to what's real, I think is important. And we've been working on AI for 15 years, both on the academic side as well as the R&D and product development side. So any kind of help we can offer, we're always willing to help.
And there is a huge amount of hype, and there is the risk of jumping in before you're ready. Is there any foundational work that we can be doing to prepare for these partnerships and moving forward with AI?
Yeah, I think you have to look through a filter or a lens of what is it that I'm trying to accomplish, and is AI or a generative AI tool the best way to get me there?
Yeah.
To achieve whatever objective it is, right? I need to increase productivity by whatever. I really need to speed up the creative process to be more competitive. Whatever the objective is, understanding that first and then working backwards. And if generative AI or a generative AI tool is the thing that you need to do that, then it's understanding like the steering committee examples, what tools are the best tools for you to be able to use? And what are safe, what are private, what are secure? Because there's a lot of LLMs out there. There's a lot of applications being developed on those LLMs, whether it's Llama 2 or whatever it might be, and they're not all safe. And they're not all trained appropriately or legally, right? They're grabbing stuff out of the ether and training themselves. So you just gotta beware of that stuff. And then once you kind of go through that process and understand the right tools that match the objective, then I think it's creating a safe environment for your users, whether it's your employees, your executives, your franchisees, or your students, whoever it might be, to then go ahead and adopt the tools and start using those tools without putting the fear of into them, that if they do something wrong, they're going to be fired or something like that, because you've created that safe environment. And then it's IT, it's CTO, office of the CTO, it's marketing, right? It's legal, it's the C-suite, it's everybody that has to be involved in this conversation to make sure that you're deploying in the right way.
Yeah, definitely a lot of challenges, a lot of things that can go wrong, but a huge upside as well. Don, that's about all we have time for, so thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for tuning in.
Thank you.